Annie Klaff here at Oriole Park at Camden Yards with the head groundskeeper of the Orioles, Nicole Sherry. Nicole, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Well, it's a beautiful day, so
Yes.
that means you guys are probably busy, especially with this homestand. You have one of the coolest jobs known to man. What are often the reactions that you get from people that you tell?
So they're like, wow, you can have a career doing that, and that's the most fascinating thing that people are really, it takes them a minute to really grasp that, oh yeah, you can have a career in sports other than playing or coaching, and you can take care of grass.
Did you always know that you wanted to be involved with sports? I know you went to college and studied agriculture and turf management, but was it always with sports in the background?
Kind of. I really just wanted to be outside. I love being part of that team atmosphere. So I think that really kind of like, once I figured out that like turf grass science or management was like a career or a goal of mine, I was like, yeah, this is where I fit.
You have some background with golf courses too. Was there something specific that made you want to shift to baseball?
The time getting up. So no, golf was awesome. I loved being out there early, and it's just beautiful. I mean, golf courses are incredible, and the superintendents that take care of them are just crazy and amazing at the same time. But it was the time of day. I was only 21, and that was really hard for me to get up at like 4 or 5 a.m. and work an 8-hour day and be in bed by 8. So
right, I bet.
I think that's what kind of made me shift to baseball.
To later nights and afternoons.
Yes.
Now, you are one of 2 females in all of MLB history to hold a head groundskeeper role. It was different for golf. There were lots of females that held that kind of role. For you, was that a bit of a shift, just making it to baseball, and what does that mean to you to have that?
It was kind of odd because I never, being in the classes, first of all, in schooling, I had a lot of female representation in a lot of my classes, and then being in golf course management, same thing, like a lot of females in different roles in that. And then when you get to baseball, you're like, there's nobody really like me. And then somebody was like, oh, Heather at Detroit, she's the only other one. And I'm like, that's interesting that there's just 2. But then when you really break it down and think about, there's only 30 teams in the major leagues. So it's really a small niche, or small, I don't know how to say it, but like it's hard to get in to be a head groundskeeper at this level. So I can understand why there's not many women yet.
And those opportunities don't necessarily come every so often.
No, not at all.
And for you, you kind of were there at the right place, right time, right?
Yes, I think it was fate. Like I did my internship here at the Orioles, and then I was on the grounds crew for a year, and then I was an assistant. But then I left to go to the minor leagues, and I held a position there for 3 years as a head groundskeeper. And then I thought to myself, I'll never make it back. There's only 30 jobs. What are the chances? And then it was like fate, right place, right time. The head groundskeeper was moving on, and the Orioles called and said, we'd like you to interview for the position. You interested? And I was like, absolutely. So went through the whole process, and then a month later, I was offered the position.
What was the reasoning for you behind going to the minors? I know that it can be a risky move. I'm sure people told you, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, everybody was like, why are you leaving? You're already in, like, the major leagues. And I think it was twofold. Like, I wanted to prove to myself that this was a career I really wanted to dedicate my, early life to, and then I wanted to make sure that it was the right fit for me, that I could do it on my own. And in the minor leagues, like, you don't have any budget. Oh, it's a minimal budget. You have hardly anybody that helps you on the field working. And then I just wanted to see if I could do it. And I was also told by the head groundskeeper that I worked under that if you want to prove yourself at the major league level, go to the minor league level and see if you can do it. And I thought, what better chance than going, in the same field, type of field, same grass as Trenton. And I don't know, I think it really did pay off because everything that I took from my minor league jobs, like I brought back here.
Now, you mentioned the same type of grass. You were explaining to me earlier that it's bluegrass, and there's a huge scientific element to what you do and maintaining the grounds like this. What is there often that people forget when it comes to being a head groundskeeper for an MLB team?
Yeah, so it's not just, we can't just go out and cut the grass every single day. I mean, we do, but there's a lot more science in the background behind it. Like, we need to know about the soil temperature, the soil moisture, when to fertilize, when not to fertilize, when to spray for any preventative measures for diseases. Those things happen when the team's away. So I don't think a lot of people understand or they don't really get the sense of the how big of a task it is to make sure that this field is perfect almost at all times for our athletes, number one, but then also for our fans. Like the aesthetic feel of it is just incredible.
Is there a specific day-to-day checklist that you have when big homestands against the Yankees, like today, for example? What are your specific scientific elements that you have to complete each day?
So the biggest thing is water management. So every day we go out and we take soil moisture readings to see like when we can irrigate, because every time we run the irrigation, it will bleed into the next day. So it's like if I run it tonight into the morning, will that affect some kind of practice that we have going on? So that's always on my mind. I look at the weather constantly. As we know, in the mid-Atlantic, it's crazy. It could be snowing one day and then 85 degrees the next. So always looking at the weather and what's ahead for the homestand, because that's what, during a game, my crew and I operate on weather control.
So there's a lot of interaction with the umpires, I'm sure, especially when it comes to weather. Do you like that aspect of it and being able to interact with different parts of baseball?
That's a tough question, because it's a challenge. The weather is a big challenge, because it could be doing something 10 miles away from here but never occur at the ballpark. So I only have like 1 minute and 28 seconds to convey that to the umpire chief, and then basically he makes the decision. And then I have to run back out, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes later and tell him that, oh, never mind, it changed. And it's a lot of communication. It's a lot of like being on at all times with the weather here, but I love it. But I also, the weather and I have a love-hate relationship.
I'm sure.
So to speak, so, yeah.
And similarly with the interaction with umpires, the main part of your job is to ensure the safety and health for the players. Do you get to interact with the players at all?
Yeah, sometimes, they're here to do their job, and I think that when they come out and they're either, having some alone time or just throwing on the field or stretching, I really don't try to interact with them. But, if you walk by, they're awesome. They say, hey, what's up? They know, like, about my son. They know, a lot of our crew members. Like, it's really a team atmosphere. So to that respect, yes, we do have a lot of interaction. But as far as the concerns on the playing field, if an athlete approaches you that there's something wrong, something's wrong. Like, I don't go and seek out anybody and say, hey, how was the field last night? Or, they actually will come to you if there's a concern or a need to address. Or some guys like it a little drier than other positions on the field. And pitchers are very picky about like how they like their mound. So like we try to get to know those guys in that way to address the field for that.
Is that hard to balance if some players like it this way and other players like it a different way?
Yes, because like we had a first baseman one time that didn't like his area as wet as like the shortstop and the third baseman did. So you're completely doing two different things on the field to address all of those athletes. So it's a challenge, but we do what we can to, get the game going and them to have a successful win.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, you were explaining to me beforehand that the color of the warehouse and the bricks that they have on hand just in case are actually part of the infield dirt, right?
Well, it's part of the warning track.
Okay.
The warning track, but we hand blend back in our shop area 3 different colors of infield top dressing, which is a granular that helps the ball roll and helps them slide, to match the warehouse. And we use the bricks that they used to repoint the warehouse crushed for our warning track. So aesthetically, when a fan walks in, it automatically looking at the field automatically brings their eye up to the warehouse, and I think that's just the focal point of Camden Yards.
I feel like a big part of your job, and at least whenever I'm watching the grounds crew mow or water anything, I just think it's so satisfying. To you, do you ever take a step back and think, wow, my job is pretty cool and very satisfying?
Yeah, especially on days when it's beautiful and you don't have to worry about weather. Like, it really does put a lot of like what we do on a daily basis into perspective when you can just look what you helped create for the purpose of this team, and I think that really, like, when I walk away at the end of the night, and if we win or if we lose, like, I know that we contributed what we could to help them be successful on the field. And that's yes, it's a Zen moment, and I don't take it for granted. And sometimes I get a little cranky about the weather, but other than that, I love what I do.
That's great. And then the last question I will ask you, because obviously, especially for homestands, it can be a very, very long schedule before and after the game. How do you maintain a work-life balance?
Yeah, that's difficult, especially when grass doesn't know a day off. You know, like we're here all the time, or somebody's here all the time. So it's really being communicative with my crew and working to achieve the goals of everybody. So like I have a son, Andrew and his wife, they need their time, and my other assistant, Clint, he has a son and a wife, and so we try to really coordinate, like, well, what do you need? Or I can do this. Why don't you go home early? Or like we really just communicate what we can do for the field, but then also for ourselves, which is really important. If you don't have good mental health going into a grind like a 10-game homestand, then you're not going to be successful either way.
Do your home grounds look as pristine as this?
No, do not come to my yard, and do not get mad at me about my yard.
You leave it at work.
Everything is focused on this field, and I do have dandelions and crabgrass at my house, and my neighbors make me.
You're mortal.
They make sure I'm aware. So.
Well, awesome, Nicole. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
everything you do to make the ballpark look beautiful.
That.